My name is Robert. I'm a compulsive overeater. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here. Thank you, Debbie, for running the meeting. Thank you, Natalie, for inviting me. I'm going to share on my experience, strength, and hope. Today, I go to my usual home group meeting at 11 o'clock. So with this meeting, I'll have two meetings today, which is what my friend Luca, who many of you know, calls recovery points. So I'm getting recovery points today. So my experience, I've been working the 12-step program since 12th of October, 1984. So I have something over 40 years of working the 12-step program. You'd have thought I'd have got it from memory by now, but I haven't. I learn something new every meeting. So that's my experience. My strength, I spent 2 years in the army in national service when I was young. I was called up. I had no choice about it. And I've been to British private school. If you want to learn about sexual abuse and bullying, all you have to do is go to British private school and you'll learn. So I've done that. That's my strength. And so that's enough experience. That's enough strength. Really what's important is the hope. The hope that I have that I can stay in remission from my compulsive overeating day by day by day by day by day, and that I can encourage others by reaching out to help them in any way that they feel would be appropriate. So that's my hope. I had 25 years of abstinence in Overeaters Anonymous, and then I threw it away, which was quite extraordinary because I was still going to meetings. I went to meetings absolutely every week, and I worked this 12-step program absolutely every day, and I relapsed. Now, the reason for that was that it was during COVID, and I carried on working the 12 steps and attending meetings. But what I had not realized was the effect of isolation. I didn't see anybody during that time because I have chronic lymphocytic leukemia. If I catch major infections, I have no means of protecting myself against it, and I would catch the infection and quite possibly die. And I don't want to do that. My life is too beautiful. I want to continue staying alive and staying here with you. So what happened was that by being isolated during COVID, I still went to my meetings and still worked the steps. But I went to my doctor and he said, you are at risk. You cannot afford to have a vaccination because it would possibly kill you. Now, he was completely wrong. And I've subsequently changed my doctor. But as an obedient soul, on my good days, I followed his advice. And the end result was that, I took my mind off the ball. And I went to my club, which I go to, about every 10 days when it's open. And I go for the music. I enjoy the music performances that they put on. And I went to that, and then I had supper, as I always do afterwards. And then I ate some marron glacé. Now, as those of you who know marron glacé, they're like mini Mars bars, and I had 6 of them. Why did I do that? Because I don't eat sugar or white flour. And also, I bought £10 worth of lottery tickets, and I haven't gambled for 40 years. But I did. And so I relapsed both on my eating disorder and on my compulsive gambling. I once lost 3 months' income on the turn of one card in a poker game. And wives don't like that, as I think some of you would understand. So I relapsed. And the crucial issue is that I did it again 10 days later. So this wasn't just a slip. It wasn't just an accident. It was a thoughtless act. Completely out of the blue, I relapsed. And so my recovery rate from my eating disorder is now 22nd of June. And so I'm just coming up to 3 years. I've got another couple of months to do. So that's the way it is. I relapsed. Now, what matters is that I got back in. After 10 days, I said to myself, after the second occasion, second lot of Malin Glacé, Robert, what are you doing? You don't eat sugar or white flour ever. And here you are, gobbling it. And you don't gamble, and there you are, taking lottery tickets. What are you doing? And so I recognized that isolation is a disaster for me. I cannot afford it. I'm a people person, and I need people in my life, because otherwise, down I go. Now, what I'm doing nowadays, I've done several things in my professional life, and I've moved on. If I find I've completed one activity to the best of my ability, I move on to another. And I've done that, and I'm now composing music. I always wanted to be a musician. I said at school, I want to be a professional musician. They said, you can't, it's for homosexuals, and we don't allow it. Well, that was the way schools were in those days. And subsequently, the school entered me for a scholarship, a music scholarship to Cambridge. And they hadn't taught me a word. They said I wasn't allowed to study music, but they nonetheless entered. They said, well, you're musical, you'll get a scholarship. Well, I went in, I looked at the paper, I didn't understand any of the questions. I signed my name at the bottom of a blank piece of paper and gave it back. And so that was my attempt at getting a scholarship, no chance whatever. But the chap sitting next to me said, Robert, have you ever composed anything? I said, no, I'm not a composer. I've done a bit of conducting, a bit of singing, but I've never composed. He said, anybody can compose. You sit down at the piano and see what comes out of your fingers. And I did. And I've been composing ever since. It's quite extraordinary. I'm so happy composing my music. I wrote a set of songs without words, like Mendelssohn did, and just simple ones on the piano, and I loved it. And then I went on. I composed the story and also the solo parts and chorus parts for 2 operas. Well, they'll never be performed because opera is immensely expensive. It costs, I gather, about £11 million to put on an opera. Well, I've got £11, but I certainly haven't got £1 million or 11 million. So, I just stay here with my piano. I have 3 things. I live in this flat, which is a 2-bedroom flat. My wife has a study, and I have a study. So I'm working on my music in this room that you'll see me in. And my wife works in her room where she writes, edits, and publishes hiking guides. And at the moment, she's away, she's hiking. She's in Florence and having the time of her life. I think that's not entirely from being away from me, but I suspect that some of it might be. But so that's where she is, and here I am at home doing my thing as usual. And I have my piano, and later on today I shall compose another song without words. It takes me about a couple of hours to compose one. It seems very quick, but they're very short and they're very simple. I just enjoy doing them. So this is what I'm doing today. I think of myself nowadays as a professional musician. Well, my school might have disagreed, And when I went up to Cambridge, I said, I'd like to study music. And they said, fine. And 1 week later, they said, not fine. And I said, why not? And they said, well, you're no good. And I said, but I've never been taught. And they said, we don't teach at that level, dear. You should go to the college or the academy or somewhere. And so, you know, alternatively, you might like to do something else. As you've got a Cambridge place, you might like to stay here and read a different subject. And that is what I chose to do. But it was interesting that when I eventually qualified as a doctor, as it happens, my mother said to me, oh, Robert, I wish you'd been a musician. I must be the only doctor in history to have disappointed his mother. But that's life. So here I am now, giving my mum the pleasure. I think my mum's in this room with me, as my father is as well. They've been dead for 30 years, but I think they're here. They know, they can hear what I'm talking about. And thank you, Mum. Thank you, Dad, for your encouragement. And here I am. So I don't want to go on and on about music, but it is my central enjoyment on a day-to-day basis. I have my wife, my piano, and my iPad, which I'm using at the moment to be in contact with all of you. Those are the three central parts of my daily experience that keep me sane as far as I can be. Now, as far as Overeaters Anonymous is concerned, if I lose my abstinence and my recovery and stop working a 12-step program, I'm done, dusted, finished. I have absolutely no doubt about that. So I'm here not because I want to be, but because I have to be. My name is Robert, and I am a compulsive overeater. That's not an opinion, it's a fact. I know I've got plenty of experience of it by now to know that I really have to work the 12-step program of Overeaters Anonymous if I'm to stay in remission long term. And I do that by working the 12 steps and by being here with you. So thank you very much for what you give me.